How do you define sacred history? Sacred history does not have necessarily any historical evidence by a historian. I wouldn't use the word mythology just because people misunderstand it, but mythology can be history as well. It's just not historical in the sense we don't have records. Moses, alayhi salam, there are people that argue that he never existed. Now, we don't believe that, but there are historians that argue that. There are historians that argue that Jesus did not exist. There are very few historical references to Jesus outside of sacred tradition. So that's the point of sacred history. Sacred history comes in Revelation. Nobody was there when God was talking to the angels and telling them to bow down to Adam. For somebody like Richard Dawkins, that is pure mythology. So a secular atheist or agnostic would just consider that that's pure mythology. For us, we believe it did happen. I mean, obviously, there are people that think these things aren't literal, and there are Muslims that believe that, and that it's not necessarily kufr as long as they don't deny these things altogether. But asulul kalam al-haqiqa, the basis of all languages is literal initially, unless there's some reason to go to a metaphorical interpretation. But whenever you see the anthropomorphic aspects of the Quranic narratives, you have to free your mind from that. I mean, there's very simple people that think that these are like the majalis of a king with people in front of them, and you have to get that out of your mind when you think about God, because God, kullu ma khatara bi barika fallahu khilafu dhalika. I mean, that's the qaida. Anything that occurs to your mind, God is other than that. So you can't imagine, but there are approximations. I mean, Allah uses a language. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said, "Laysa fil jannati min ad-dunya illa al-asma." The only thing that paradise and this world share are the names. That's it. There was a Syrian who had a dream. He went to Shaykh Hisham Barhani. He was Shaykh Hisham. He said, I dreamed I was eating macaroni in paradise. And in Arabic it's macarona. He said it wasn't macarona, it was maqara'na. It wasn't macarona, it wasn't macaroni, it was what we read, ma qara'na. Min al-inab, rumman. So that's what I mean by sacred history. It's, Khalid Blankenship, who's one of the most extraordinary intellects and historians that I've ever met in my life. I mean, he is a historical phenomenon in terms of his, or he is a phenomenon of historical knowledge. But he was asked to do a program on history in the Quran, and what he found was that there wasn't anything in the Quran outside of the references to seerah and things that really could be proven historically. But he said what was interesting, unlike the Bible, they couldn't be disproven either. Like there are things in the Bible that are just historically inaccurate that have been shown. If you read Ehrman's books, or misquoting Jesus, or if you read, I mean, he's popularizing a lot of the German scholarship of the late 19th, early 20th century, where they really criticized a lot of what was in the Bible because it was just inaccurate.